And good morning, Pilates chums. I've just realised I forgot to turn the light on. Let us do that. That's marginally better. How are you? It is a fairly dismal, drizzly Monday morning. So, good morning, Rosie. I can't think of a better place to be this morning than Gentle Pilates. So what are we going to need? I've got my mat here. I've got a towel or a piece of clothing to support my head. So we're always thinking about that alignment. So there's no point having the alignment here, right, if your neck's or your chin's all out of place. So we've got that. I've got my resistance bands. I'm hoping to use it yet again. Don't be disappointed if I don't. Right. Otherwise, I've got a drink. I've got a nice safe space to work in. And I'm making sure that I'm feeling tip-top and not ill at all. So if you are poorly, if you are feverish, please don't do this session today. And if you have any recent injuries, be very, very careful. Don't do anything that's going to put you in a painful position. So we'll get started, shall we? I'm really, really looking forward to this session today because feeling a little bit stiff in the shoulders and the back. And I just really, really want the mobility and the flexibility. But I'm also looking forward to working on our core strength. So these really deep muscles around the hips, here between the ribs and the pelvis, around the shoulder girdle, okay? Because those are the muscles that are going to be responsible for holding our beautiful alignment and putting as little pressure as possible on our joints. All good. So with that in mind, let's see if we can just feel those feet on the floor. We're going to take those feet just comfortably hip width apart. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to relax and we're just going to let these hips go. So I'm just gently moving these hips. Now, what I'm going to do is just let that opposite heel come away from the floor so we're not twisting through that knee joint. And you can see if you haven't got the space, you might find you end up banging those arms. So just make sure you've got the right amount of space before you really let go. And then we're going to loosen off those shoulders, just really soften. See if you can get any tension that's been building up over the last 48 hours of the glorious weekend. Sometimes it's just tension of it's such a nice day, I've got to do loads. And then we'll bring it back. And then we just move those feet a little bit. Just move those feet a little bit. Just see if you can lift one heel at a time. Get a nice bit of ankle movement. We're just gently starting to warm up those legs. And then we're going to see if we can just give me a wave. So we're just going to, nice and easy does it. You can steady those feet or you can keep your feet moving, whatever works for you. So we're just getting a little bit of blood flow into these shoulders. Just finding that nice, comfortable circle for you. It doesn't have to be really high, okay? Doesn't have to be really high. Just find your movement that works for you. Get some movement in those shoulders. And then we're going to relax it down. Just shake those arms out. And we're just going to move those feet again. So let's see if we can take those feet about hip width apart. When we're thinking about alignment, we can think about these toes. So we're going to get them as close to 12 o'clock as we feel comfortable underneath those hip bones. We're going to think about that bucket of water. So I'll turn this way. Remember how that pelvis makes a real difference to how we stand. So we can arch that back, a bit like, what do they call it? Duck's bottom. Okay, but we've got a really enhanced curve there. So if we imagine that bucket of water in the pelvis, and we're going to tip water out of the front, out of the back, and then we're going to tip less and less each time till we arrive at that midpoint where the water is flat. We have that natural curve at the base of the spine. We're using these core muscles, these hamstrings to hold that pelvis in its neutral position. And then we're just going to relax those arms. Good. And then we're going to think about these shoulders. So these are the other area where we really hold a lot of tension. So let's take that breath in and really relax those shoulders down. Breathe out. See if you can just see how far they can go. And as we breathe in, think about breathing in through the nose. And as you breathe out, see if you can breathe out through the mouth. Just that soft breath out through the mouth. Be careful of over breathing in. So explore that lung space without gasping. Otherwise, you're going to start feeling a little bit dizzy. Good. Just relax those shoulders, slide them down. So we're looking straight ahead, out onto that horizon. Good. Okay, so let those shoulders go a little bit further than you think even they can go. And we're going to just go back to that breathing. So we're going to take these hands onto your rib cage, fingers meeting in the middle, and we're going to imagine that you're breathing into the palms of your hands. Sometimes I like to think I'm breathing into my armpits. And this is called lateral breathing. So it's really useful in Pilates if we can avoid breathing down into this region, but use the side of your lungs and the back of your lungs instead. So we're going to carry on just keeping those shoulders soft, imagining that you're breathing into your armpits, into the palms of your hands. And then we're going to slide those hands a little bit lower. And this is why we're going to try and avoid this area. So this area between the pubic bone and the belly button, this is our corset-like muscle. And we're going to see if we can activate it by drawing it in. So imagine you're doing up your corset just a couple of notches tighter. Okay, so this is our 30%. And then we're going to relax those arms. And because we've created this centering movement here, because we've sort of drawn in, we need to make sure the air has room to go somewhere else when you breathe in, rather than that diaphragm pushing down. Okay, so what we're trying to do is expand the lungs this way rather than this way, because we've got this nice and centered. Okay, let's relax those arms. Let's think about drawing that corset in, and then we're going to come into those side bends. So remember that alignment, that long neck, chin drawn to the back of the neck, shoulders soft. We've got that neutral spine, that bucket of water in the pelvis. The water is totally flat. And we're not reaching, we're not looking to go really far. We're listening to this lower back, we're listening to the muscles that support it. And when you feel that you get to that point of tension, we're just going to breathe out, breathe in, and come all the way back up. Good. Okay, so we're going to come all the way back up, and then we're just going to lift one heel at a time. So we're keeping that really nice corset a couple of notches tighter. We've got your belts, as I sometimes call it, at notch 3, neutral pelvis, and we're just lifting one heel at a time. And then we're going to come back. We're just going to soften those knees a little bit, bring these arms underneath the chest, and we're just going to take a breath in, roll those shoulders up to the ears, slide those shoulder blades all the way down. Now we're going to just imagine that you've got those headlights on the hip bones, and keeping those shoulders nice and soft, keeping that chin in line with your wrists. We're taking this gentle twist away from center as we breathe out. As we breathe in, we're coming back to center. See if you can relax into this movement. Let's see if we can think about flow today. So we're imagining that this trunk, these core muscles, are like steel, strong. They're keeping everything in alignment. But these arms, these shoulders, these legs, they're like silk. I'm just going to straighten up those legs again. Take a breath in, draw those shoulders up to the ears. I'll just change direction if I think it'll help for you to see me in a different angle. And we're just going to take that breath in, breath out. And as those shoulders slide down, find that alignment, tighten that belt. And we're going to start with those arm floats. We're going to do 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. So as this arm floats up, we're keeping the shoulder nice and relaxed. Sliding that shoulder blade down as the arm rises. We're not moving from the elbow, we're moving from the shoulder. Watch out for that trying to support or the ribs popping. Keep those core muscles tight, looking straight ahead, and then we're going to change arms. So just remember with Pilates This movement, you don't have to do it the same speed of me. I'm following my own breathing patterns. I'm just moving in time. So as I breathe out, I'm allowing this arm to rise. And as I breathe in, I'm just controlling that movement back down. Good. So I'm going to do one more on this side. Base it 3 on one side, 3 on the other. We're going to bring it down. I'm going to soften those knees slightly, and then we're going to open out this chest. Good. And we're going to bring it in. And as you soften those knees, make sure those heels stay down. And I'm going to breathe in this time. We're going to really fill those lungs. Good. Make sure those knees stay in line with that second toe as we bend those knees. We're going to take one more of these. We're going to breathe in. Just gently slide those hands down. And again, let's just take those shoulder rolls. And then we're going to see if we can take a full arm circle. So we're going to lead with this thumb, and we're going to make it quite wide to start with. Doesn't have to go loads back. Keep those hips square on, shoulders square on. We're breathing in this time as we rise that arm. And you're just going to find that circle that works for you. So don't feel you have to make a big circle. I'm gradually increasing mine with each one, but you can keep it nice and small. So we're starting very small. You might need to start smaller. Looking out onto that horizon, breathing in and breathing out. And remember those core muscles, particularly as this arm comes up. We need to really tighten that belt. Breathing out. And then we're just going to relax those shoulders. So we're going to see now if we can lift those heels off the floor, just a small distance. See if we can balance. Because we're at home, it's quite nice. We can use that wall if we're not sure. Remember our neutral spine. Try not to sort of suddenly stick that bottom out and that tummy out. So let's just see if we can draw in. And imagine you're just pushing that imaginary tail down to your heels. We're going to breathe in and we're going to breathe out. Good. See if we can control this. It's very good for balance. We're looking out onto the horizon. Good. You may find that you can bring some arm movement in. Might be nice and small, might be a little bit bigger. Just hold that neutral spine. This is what Pilates is all based on, holding that neutral spine. Good. Holding that alignment. And we're going to take one more. And focus on that fixed point in the distance. Lovely. Now, let's see if we can take those little knee bends again. Very much in the interest of warming the thigh muscles up. So please don't sort of think I've got to squat really low. It's all about pushing that bottom backwards. If the knees don't like it on one level, then just make the movement smaller. We're just warming these legs up, okay? Good. Keep that nice long spine. We're just gently pushing those palms forwards. And we're going to take one more. Now, in this position, we're going to see if we can tilt that pelvis. So we're actually tipping water out of the back of the bucket or pushing that tail between your legs. And we're just going to let that head relax, let those arms relax. Good. Now tighten that belt. Remember that imaginary tail is lying at your heels. Let that head go, and we're going to practice that roll up. So stack that spine, starting at the bottom. We're going to put one segment on top of the other. Really imagine it happening. And as you're doing that, you're placing that tail down, and I'm straightening those legs. Open out that chest at the end. We're going to do 3 of those. So we're going to come down, tilt that pelvis. You can take those hands as support onto those thighs as you do that. Now let that head relax. Let those arms relax. Let everything go. Tighten that belt. Roll up through that spine. Good. I'm just going to straighten my legs at the end this time. I'm going to take one more. Good. So just relax those arms. Relax the head. Push that tail between the legs, really draw that tummy button in. Arms are floppy, head is floppy. Roll up through that spine. And we're going to come all the way up. Okay, just roll those shoulders. Just give those feet a little shake. Give those legs a little shake. And what we're going to do now is just practice that roll down. And then we're going to see if we can eventually bring ourselves onto our mat. So we're going to do, again, 3 little practices. And number 4, we might bring ourselves onto the mat. If you want to do a few more, that is fine. So this time with those legs straight, if you have any back issues, keep that little bend. Really focus on here, not allowing that back to arch or the bottom to stick out behind you. We're just going to gently drop that chin towards the chest, and then we're just going to lift that chin, bring it back up. So really relax those shoulders. Remember, slide the shoulder blades down the back as that chin drops to the chest. You'll notice the shoulders will want to help. So allow that to stay there, tighten that belt, then we're going to lift this chest over that imaginary beach ball at your feet. So as we're doing this, we've got that belt, 3 or 4. We are breathing out. We're making sure we're not sticking that bottom out behind us. And then at the bottom, so you'll probably find you can't go as far because we're warming up, tighten that belt, and then push that tailbone down to the floor. Really push those heels down into the floor. Make those glutes start the movement. And then we're going to roll up through this spine. One segment on top of the other. The last thing to come up is that head. Breathe in. And again, start dropping that chin to the chest. Tighten that belt. Lift that rib cage up and over those toes. Keep both feet securely on the floor. Try not to stick that bottom out behind you. Just let that head go. Let the arms go. You'll find you're looking through your thighs. Tighten that belt. And on that breath out, we're going to roll back up through. So really engage those feet to the floor. Push those heels down. Engage those glutes. Engage those core muscles. Shoulders relax. Head is the last thing to come. Last time, guys. Good. So remember the belt. Remember, just keep engaging, lifting that rib cage. Shoulders relaxed. Head relaxed. Good. And then all the way back up. So everything controlled by those glutes, the hamstrings, and then those abdominal muscles, those core muscles. Good. And then we'll shake it out again. Brilliant. So I'm hoping that was okay for you. Hoping you're feeling nice and warmed up. We're going to bring it down onto our mat now. So I'm going to adjust my camera angle. Basically, just move it. And I'm going to bring it here. So however you would like to do this, we're going to bring ourselves down onto our mats. Okay, so we can use the roll down, or we can not use the roll down. Just come down however it makes you comfortable. I'm just going to adjust this ever so slightly. Good. So really nice long standing warm up. You can just see my legs, but what I'm going to do is just see if I can come from this position. I'm going to walk my fingertips out, all my knuckles, and I'm going to bring myself down into that plank position, bend my knees, and I'm just going to come into that half child's pose. So I'm just going to sit back, and then I am going to just gently bring my forehead onto the mat. Relax the shoulders, guys. Relax those shoulders. So we're in this prone position. So let's bring ourselves first of all into our 4-point kneeling position. So remember that long back, neutral spine, palms underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And we don't have those knees really close together. We want them hip width apart. So hands and knees are pretty similar. Okay, you might find the knees are ever so slightly wider if your hips are wider than your shoulders like me. Right, so just play around with that neutral spine again, okay? So just tilt that pelvis and then find that position where it feels neutral. And if you had a tail now, it would be sticking straight out behind you. I feel like I'm sort of at a funny angle to you. So I'm going to draw my chin to the back of the neck. And now in this position, we are using shoulders, triceps. So draw those shoulders away from the ears. Now we're going to practice our abdominal bracing, okay, that's centering of the core muscles. So we're going to imagine I've lit a campfire underneath your belly button. It's very hot, and as it gets hotter and hotter, we're going to draw that tummy button away from it. So really think about that corset-like muscle. Now what we're going to do next is just come into that cat stretch, draw that spine to the ceiling, and we're looking towards those knees as we breathe out. Good. So a couple of things going on here. We're dropping that chin to the chest, tilting that pelvis, pushing that tail between your legs and drawing that spine to the ceiling. Breathing out as we come up, breathing in as we come back. Let's take one more of these. Breathing out, breathing in. And then we're just going to walk these knees backwards, slowly lower ourselves down into that prone position. So you may want your towel at this point, just to support that forehead. And once you find that nice lying down position, I want you to be aware, we tend to lie down and this back naturally arches. We just let the belly just relax into the mat. So I'm really keen that we work on this before we start moving in this position. So let's come into our position of relaxation. Forehead, neck in alignment, shoulders relaxed, arms in that W position. And then let's try those tilts again. So let's notice what happens when we imagine that bucket of water. And let's just make it smaller and smaller till we arrive at that midpoint. And then we're going to imagine that mat is now on fire as well. And we're just going to draw up and away from that mat with those core muscles. So that whole area between your ribs and the pelvis is your corset. And we're drawing in and we're drawing up. So what we're going to do now, we are going to very, very, very gently lift this chest. So try not to engage those glutes. We're going to imagine you've got to slip a piece of paper between your ribs and the mat. So we're just lifting those ribs a fraction, and then we're going to just gently lower, relax the shoulders. So it's a little bit like lifting so that we could place a P underneath your nose, but we're not lifting the chin. We're lifting from this rib cage. Lift that breastbone. And again, just squeeze. Good. And we're going to bring it back down. Lovely. And again, we're breathing out. And we're breathing in. Now we're going to take one more of these. Relax the shoulders. Let those shoulder blades slide down the back. Come on, keep tightening that belt. Bring it down. Now this time we are going to engage the glutes, okay? So we're engaging, we're tightening that belt, and we're going to lift. This time we're using the lower back muscles. So we're going to squeeze that bottom, lift that chest, and bring it back down. So the first exercise, we were working the muscles around the shoulder blades. Now we've moved down. Squeeze that bottom. Don't let those feet come off the floor. We're almost pushing those feet away from you and down. And again, really engage those core muscles. So draw that tummy button away from the mat. Slide those shoulder blades down that back. Imagine they're sliding down a stream down your back. And again, we're going to squeeze that bottom, really engage, lift, and we're working those lower back muscles and those glutes, those bottom muscles. We're going to take one more of these. Just gently lifting, breathing out, drawing that tummy button in, bringing it back down. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to come into child's pose. So push yourself up, just gently tuck that tail, that imaginary tail between your legs. Sit back on those heels. And this time we're going to leave those hands there so we're getting a nice little stretch of those shoulders. Breathe out, my friends. Breathe out. Okay, slide those hands back in.
What we're going to do now is bring ourselves onto our bottoms. Knees are bent. We're going to hold onto the back of the thighs. We're going to create that little pelvic tilt, and we're going to see if we can lower ourselves one segment at a time with that back down onto the mat. If you're not comfortable with this, just do however you feel comfortable, if that makes sense. Lovely. Okay, so we're down here. Now again, you can see I'm focusing a lot on finding this neutral spine in the first section. It's really important. Otherwise, we end up training everything to be strong in the wrong position, in the wrong alignment. So I'm just seeing if I can connect my ribs to the pelvis, finding that neutral spine, relaxing. Now my feet hip width apart are yours. Let's see if we can come into that pelvic tilt and then straight into bridge. So relax the shoulders. Just see if you can draw those hip bones together, squeeze that bottom, and we're just going to peel that spine away from the mat. Now you might find you just need 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 to actually get you to that full range. So once you come back, find neutral, engage, tilt, squeeze, off you go. Good. Really see if you can engage these glutes. These are the bottom muscles. So really squeeze them at the top of that move and then come all the way back down. So we're looking towards the ceiling. Got that little orange between your chin and the chest. Shoulders are relaxed. Imagine those shoulder blades are just almost melted into the mat. So they're just staying where they are. Squeeze that bottom. And then we're going to think about those knees. So keep those knees pointing up towards the ceiling. They're still hip width apart. Big toes still at 12 o'clock. All the way back down. So see if you can make contact with each little segment of that back, of that spine. You've got each vertebra playing their part in pressing back down. And as we peel away, remember we talk about peeling, I forgot what it's called, but if you were peeling a strip of sellotape away from a piece of paper. Good, now squeeze that bottom at the top. Squeeze, but keep those shoulders relaxed. Lovely. Okay, we're going to do one more of these and we're going to hold it. We're going to hold it at the top. So really push those heels down into the floor. Squeeze that bottom. Squeeze that bottom. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can lift the ball of the foot off one foot off the floor. Bring it down. We're going to lift the ball of the foot off the other one. Then we're going to see, keep squeezing this bottom. Lift one heel off the floor and lift the other heel off the floor. Now let's see if we can lift both balls of the feet. Squeeze that bottom. Don't let that back arch. See if you can lift the heels. Good. Balls of the feet. Squeeze. Heels. And then we're going to come all the way back down. All the way back down. Make sure each segment plays its part. Then we're going to bring one knee and the other knee into that chest. Good. Okay, let's just see if we can make that nice little rolling like a ball movement. I'm keeping it at the lower end at the moment. I just want to really warm up this lower back before we go any further with that. Okay, so let's take our hip rolls next. So we're going to bring one foot, then the other foot. So we're always putting as little pressure on that lower back as possible by bringing one foot at a time up and down. Let's take these arms out to the side. Just imagine you've got that little orange between the chin and the chest. And then let that breath take you away from center. And that inward breath bring you back to center. So this is that wonderful movement where we synchronize head and knees. So we're getting that lovely movement throughout the spine. So we're keeping both shoulder blades. Remember we melted them into the mat. It's a bit like wax has melted and then dried. So we're just going to relax those shoulders. Let this belt-like muscle, let this corset-like group of muscles do the job, controlling the movement. Lovely. And we're going to look for that flow. We talked about flow earlier. So this is where we're going to really start to concentrate on that relaxed movement. We're not forcing it. We're just letting that movement go. If it gets to a point of tension, we're just going to slowly bring it back to that start position. Okay, let's bring it back to center. Walk those feet back to hip width apart. Let's find that neutral spine again. Make that connection between the ribs and the pelvis. So that connection now is going to be that steel thread from the base of each rib down to that pubic bone or down to the pelvis. So we've got that connection. We're going to draw in that corset. First thing we're going to do is just float these arms up to the ceiling. And just like the warm-up, we're going to see if we can take that one arm float. Now really engage here. Watch what happens to the ribs. I'm really trying hard to stop mine doing it. We're going to push the other hand away from you. We're going to take that scissors switch. Good. So let's see if we can add some challenge. So some of us will be taking one knee in tabletop. Okay, already we're having to engage those core muscles more. Draw that corset in. It may need notch 4, not notch 3. Don't let those ribs pop. Don't let that back arch. That is not the name of the game. And if you feel comfortable, we could bring 2 legs into tabletop. So let's see if we can do a few more of these. Breathing out. Breathing in. Really take your awareness into that steel thread. Now, if you're finding this quite easy, you can just gently take one foot a little bit further away. Okay. I'm not finding it easy. And again, remember you've got that glass of water balancing on the shin bone of each leg. And then we're going to bring those knees in. I'm going to imagine I'm just squeezing that little orange between my chin and the chest. And if I feel comfortable, I'm going to just roll like a ball. Remember, you're not rolling past your shoulder blades, just up and down. It's as if you're a little beach ball and you're just massaging that lower back. Good. Some of you may feel comfortable coming into that chest lifted position at the end of it. And then we're just going to relax. Good. Oh, okay, let's just take that little stretch for the piriformis. So we're going to draw this knee to the opposite shoulder, keeping both shoulder blades melted to that mat. Breathe out. Breathe in. And let's do the same on the other side. Good. Getting a little hip flexor stretch at the same time for that straight leg. Good. Okay. And we're going to release. So I'm going to bend this knee and I'm just going to gently let these knees fall to the side. And we're going to start controversially with our open door. So I'm just going to place this towel underneath my head. Okay. So we've still got that lovely alignment. You might find you need a little bit more for this one. That's good. Now just relax the shoulders. Make sure those hips are stacked on top of each other. And imagine I've clamped you into place because we're going to take our open door, which is all about stretch and flexibility. There's a little bit of core strength involved, but it's the main aim is really opening out the front of the shoulders and the chest. So this is why we want these hips. If we do that, it becomes less chest and less shoulders. It just becomes a roll. So keep that alignment, keep those hips stacked. And of course, there's a bit of neck flexibility in this as we're following the hand. We're not forcing the head to go further than it feels comfortable. So you'll quite often find the hand and the arm will move out of view. Brilliant. And then we're just going to take one more of these. Breathing out. And breathing in. And then we're going to bring it back to your start position. You can play around with that towel. I'm going to move my arm to support my head now. but I still want to focus on that lovely alignment. If you think you might require a bit of support, bring that here. You'll know because the neck will feel really nice. And then what we're going to do is straighten out these legs. So we're going to try and make sure the hips are stacked and that those heels are level with or slightly in front of that tailbone, okay? So now we're going to imagine that I'm just posting a letter between your waist and the floor. So we're just going to draw that waist upwards. You may find you can balance. You may find you need this hand here. Just keep that shoulder nice and relaxed. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to float this leg up. We're keeping those knees facing forwards, toes, big toe facing forwards. So these are our single leg lifts. If you'd like to add a challenge, we can float that lower leg, keep drawing in here. So the movement is starting at your center. It's starting in this trunk. This is where we're stabilizing. And then we're breathing out, breathing in. So we're engaging some of these muscles here, but we need to stabilize here. Good. So you might find you can take that here. We're breathing out and breathing in. Lovely. Breathing out and breathing in. Now I'm going to hold that just above hip level. And what we're going to do next is squeeze that lower thigh up to meet the top leg. Good. Keep that shoulder relaxed. Keep drawing that waist away from the mat. Remember my letter? I'm posting it again and again and again. Good. Don't forget to breathe out. Breathe in. So we're breathing out and breathing in. Now we're going to hold this here. And then we're going to lower both legs together. So bring those heels together. Really draw in that tummy button. Tighten that belt. Squeeze. And slowly down. Good. So we're using those waist muscles. Lovely. Control it down. Squeeze. Remember that flow. Lovely. And again, we're going to squeeze. And see if we can do 2 more. And down. 1 more if you can. Bring this back to neutral. Down, down. Oh, and then we're going to bring this arm overhead, bend this bottom knee, and just push that heel away from center. Get that nice stretch. And then bring this arm back. Bend that one. Oh, lovely. Okay, let's just see if we can bring that towel away. We're going to push ourselves up into our straddle position. Now, some of you may prefer to take that Z sit here, but I know lots of you prefer the straddle. But what we're going to do is we're going to do 3 each side, just in case some of you are doing the leg sit one way. So I've got those knees bent. I'm going to think about that pelvic floor. So I'm going to draw from my backside up through. It's almost like a hammock coming from that back passage all the way through up to your navel. So up to that belly button. So we're going to engage and we're going to imagine with that lift in that 3-story building. So let's just draw it up to that first floor. And then we're going to see if we can take our mermaid stretch. So we're breathing out, breathing in, back to that first floor. Good. Breathing out, breathing in. So we're engaging the pelvic floor as a means of centering these core muscles. It's not an alternative. It's just a well, it is an alternative. It's a different way of centering. And I really, really think we need to be thinking about engaging these pelvic floor muscles more and more when we're exercising and in everyday life. So I'm not going to get you to do it all the time, but in the exercises, I think it really works. We're going to be engaging. Good. And bring it down. Okay, just take a little roll of those shoulders. So we're going to see, if you were doing the Z sit, we're just going to change those legs to the other way. And again, we're going to breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. Draw it up. We're going to breathe out. And we're going to breathe in. Don't forget, relax the shoulders. Lengthen through that spine. Draw it up. Good. Lovely. Let's bring this round. Wasn't quite there. Breathing out. And release. Breathing. And then we're going to see if we can bring those legs in and just gently, gently bring the feet to the other side. If you need your towel, let's bring it this side. And then we're going to just come onto our sides. Remember, we're going to do that open door first. So we want that support for the head. I used to always roll up my mat in class because I never had my towel in the right place. And you don't have to, but it does mean you get that sort of weird drop. So let's draw those shoulders away from the ears. Just relax the shoulder blades down that back, tighten that belt, and really enjoy this movement. You can almost push that hip gently forward as you open, just to stop those hips from rolling. And as you breathe out, just let that arm move in time with your breathing. Find that flow. Good, not too high. Make sure that arm is somewhere between the ribs and the shoulder. Just allow that head to gently follow. Good, keep that belt just gently drawn in. Notch 3, notch 4. And then we're just going to bring it into that comfortable position. So I'm going to take my towel away. I'm going to slide this arm up to support my head. Relax the shoulders. Let's straighten out these legs. So if you found that really difficult, I should have said this last time, you can use that bottom leg as support if you find the leg lift difficult to balance. So making sure those hips are stacked, relaxing the shoulders, drawing that waistband away. Let's just start with that single leg lift. And remember, there's that flow. So we're looking for flow. We're breathing out, breathing in, tightening that belt. I'm going to post that letter. I'm going to float my lower leg now. So I always find this side much more challenging than the other side. We've usually got a stronger side. That's good. And just remember to use that breathing to allow those shoulders to relax, to re-engage with that core centering, to think about that alignment. And then we're going to hold that just above hip level, squeeze that lower leg up to meet. Good, draw in, squeeze, and slowly lower down, lovely. Keeping those hips stacked. Now, bring those heels together, slowly lower down, and we're really squeezing. Imagine you're shortening the space between the top rib and the top hip bone. That's it. Good. Slowly, really control that movement down. It's as if you're just rocking up and down that hip. We got one more if you can. One more. And then we're going to lower that one. Lower this one. Let's just bend both legs this time. And then we're going to bring this arm, just have a nice big stretch, and then stretch through that heel. Lovely. And then we're going to bend and release. Lovely. Right. Let's just gently bring ourselves onto our backs now. So you might need that towel for a little bit of support behind your head. You may not, but just get used to thinking about that lengthening of the neck. So if you think about the spine and the neck, we just want to make sure we're not allowing the natural curves to become sort of very, very exaggerated. because the more exaggerated we train them to be, the more exaggerated they'll be in everyday life. Now we're going to do a little bit more work on finding that neutral spine. Oh, but I want my band. I want my band. Right. So we're going to find that neutral spine. And then we're just going to hold it there, relax the shoulders. And we're going to just practice taking one leg into tabletop. Now I'm going to put this pencil in the top of this knee, and I'm going to see if you can draw a circle. Now, if I change knees, I'm just going to show you what tends to happen. This knee, when we're circling, tends to want to mirror, and that's all about engaging with these deep core muscles to stabilize the hips, stabilize the trunk so that we can move that leg independently. So what we're going to try and do is 5 clockwise, 5 anti-clockwise. Just imagine that I've put a glass of water on that knee, and we're breathing out as you move away from center, and you're breathing in as you come back to center. And then as you change direction, again, breathing out as you move away from center. If you want to make this a little bit more challenging, you can straighten out that leg. So remember that neutral spine. And I want you to imagine you've got a spirit level over these hip bones with that red dot in the middle. So we don't want to be rolling side to side. So this is stable. And then when you've done 5 each way on one side, we're going to do the same on the other side. So put that spirit level in place and see if we can make those circles. Try and relax those shoulders, engage those core muscles. Remember that connection between those ribs and that pelvis. Good. It's challenging today. Breathing out, breathing in. And then we're just going to bring those knees in. And we're going to make some little circles. And again, you can do 3 or 4 one way, and we'll do 3 or 4 the other way. So we're going to do the same movement, but we are going to increase the challenge. So I've got my resistance bands. Now, some of you I know are quite comfortable doing those circles without the band. If that's the case, that's fine. I actually need the flexibility support. So although I'm using this as a core session today, I also want to work on my flexibility on the backs of my thighs. So I'm going to use this band to help me. So I'm going to place it over that front part or the middle part of the foot, and I'm just going to take a little flex and a point. So not only will it help the thighs, it'll help the calf muscles. Good. Now, decide whether you can maintain that neutral spine and not rock with that leg straight, or you need a bit more stability with it bent. Now, what we're going to do is put that pencil into that big toe. Really make sure that leg's straight. So we may need to take it here and just gradually work. So here we go, and we're going to draw those circles, and we've got some support from these arms. So we're also working on mobility of those hips. So if you get any issues with the hip joint, this is a really nice exercise because we're not forcing, we're just taking it through that nice circular motion. We're going to go 5 one way, 5 the other way. Lovely. And again, we're breathing out as we move away from center, breathing in to return. So remember my spirit level across your hip bones. Just keep that red dot in the middle. Lovely. And when we've done 5 on that leg, we're not going to take it out yet. We're just going to flex that foot and see if you can draw that leg a little bit closer. And then we're just going to take the band into one hand, and we're just going to take one hand away from center. So the same hand that the leg is in the band, take it away from center, give yourself a little bit of support. And we're going to allow this leg to slowly, slowly fall across the body. So keep those shoulder blades connected. Try not to roll over. Good. And then we're going to just hold it there. Breathe out. So you get a really unpleasant pulling down the side of your leg.
But then we're going to come back up to center, the outside side of your leg, and we're going to let that leg fall away from center. So we're getting a really good stretch on that inner thigh. Maintain that neutral spine. Relax those shoulders. Bring it back to center. And then we're going to change legs. Let's change legs. So we're going to take that opposite foot into the band. Just decide whether you want a little bit more support or not. We're just starting by flexing and pointing. So we're just finding that level that we can start at. I tend to do that at the moment. So just see if you can, without locking, lengthen out that leg. So we're really getting the hamstrings rather than just flexing the glutes. Right, now we're going to just point that toe, put that pencil into that big toe. Let's draw our circles. Good. So we shouldn't be drawing into pain. So if at this point you're thinking, ow, that hurts, just make it slightly smaller. Think about that lovely flowing movement. Breathing in, breathing out. And when we've done 5 that way, let's take 5 the other way. And then we're just going to flex that foot again. And again, this time, taking the opposite hand away from center, because we're allowing that opposite leg just to fall across the body. So you can feel that stretch. Breathe out. Just try and relax into that stretch. Good. And then we're going to breathe into center. And we're going to breathe out. Just gently moving away from center. Good. Just allowing yourself to relax. Bringing it back up. And then we just take that band away from the foot. Slide this one up. Let's have a look. How are we doing that? Oh, marvellous. We've got loads of time. So what we're going to do, come back to that neutral spine. We're going to do one last little exercise for those abdominals. So we're going to just see if we can come into tabletop. We can come one leg or we can come 2 legs. So remember, those knees are over those hips. We need to maintain that connection between the ribs and the pelvis and that neutral spine. Now we're just going to see if we can take that single leg stretch. So we're just pushing that ankle away from center, slowly bringing it up. So we're going to do 8 on the left and 8 on the right. So if you're working with single leg, we're just going to do 8. Now, even if single leg is too challenging, we can come into that leg slide instead. Okay, we can come into that leg slide. So pick your 8. Now, if we want to increase the challenge, we're going to allow those arms to float together. Now, this is where we have to be really careful of that connection. So really tighten that belt. I sometimes think I need a 5 or a 6 here, just to maintain that connection, because my ribs want to go. I want to assist those shoulders. Good. Breathing out. Remember, we can make the move a little bit smaller so it's not so challenging. So we don't have to take the arms too far. We don't have to take the foot down too far. Just keep it higher. Lovely. And then we're going to do 8 on each side. When we've done our 8, good. We're just going to gently bring those arms back down. Take one leg, then the other leg down. We're going to walk those feet together, and we're just going to let those knees fall away from center. Bring this arm across, and we're going to bring ourselves onto our backs. I'm just going to take a nice, onto our backs, onto our fronts. And we're going to take a nice big stretch. So we're just going to stretch out those belly muscles. But keep that neutral spine.
And then bring these arms down. So we're going to finish with a little exercise for the back. And then, my friends, we are going to just stretch out our hip flexors and finish up. So we're going to do a little bit of swimming. And we've got a choice here. So if you get trouble with those shoulders, we're either just going to reduce the range or we'll just focus on the leg movement. So I'm going to start with the leg movement and then I'm going to bring in the arms. So again, like we did at the start, just make those little tilts, find that neutral spine, and then imagine that you're lying on that bed of hot coals. Draw those lower abdominals away from it. We've got that nice long neck, shoulders relaxed away from the ears, and we're simply going to squeeze. So we're going to start with the right leg, and we're just going to squeeze into that swimming leg. So I've already done it. I started to do that. Lengthen, squeeze from the hip, okay? From the hip. We're going to do 8 on the right, 8 on the left. Good. So keep drawing that tummy button in, squeeze slowly down. We're going to squeeze, really squeeze that bottom muscle. Really use it. And again. Lovely. So we're going to do 8 on the left. So engage, neutral spine, and squeeze. Good. Squeeze. You might find it takes you just a couple to get into the movement. That's lovely. Good. Really squeezing. Really drawing that tummy button away from the mat as you squeeze, keeping that long neck. Good. And when we've done 8 on the left, we're going to bring it down. Now we're just going to see if we can slide one hand away from center, draw it back. And we're going to do the same again. Slide it away from center. And then keeping those abdominals engaged. Engage that corset, slide it up. Now let's see if we can squeeze up. Do the same. We're going to slide. Imagine you've got that ball underneath your hand and you're just rolling the ball forwards, bringing it back, not overreaching. So keep that rib pelvis connection. Now we're going to see if we can slide both arms together and bring them back. Good. And relax it down. So if we're going to do swimming arms and legs, we're going to take that opposite arm, opposite leg. We're going to squeeze and bring it back to that start position. And again, squeeze. So it's a lengthening rather than lifting. Don't bring those legs much higher than the arms. Imagine I've got a piece of thread from your fingertips to your toes and I'm just pulling it horizontally. Good. Breathing out. If one doesn't suit, just do arms or legs. Good. Really squeezing, drawing that tummy button in. Great. We're going to do one more either side. Squeezing those glutes. Bringing it in. And then pushing ourselves into our 4-point kneeling position. And let's just stretch out using that cat stretch. Just gently drop that chin towards the chest. Tilt that pelvis. Draw that back to the ceiling. And then we're going to walk our hands back to our thighs. Lovely. Okay. So let's just stretch out these hip flexors. So we're going to slide one foot in front of you. And if that heel's in front of the knee, we're going to bring that knee over the heel. So we're going to get that nice stretch here. Okay, so we want those hips square on. And if you feel comfortable, we're going to float those arms up. Try not to arch that back. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, we're just going to gently turn that chest towards the bent leg. So we're getting a great stretch of those hip flexors. And then we're going to come back to center. Slide those arms down. Bring that knee back. And nice and controlled, same on the other side, good. So the further you take that foot forwards, the more stretch you'll get when you come down into it. So again, try not to arch this back. So keep being aware of that pelvis. Breathe in. Draw those shoulder blades down. Breathe out. Good. Come back to center. Bring it in. And then we're just going to slide this foot back. And then we're just going to sit back on those heels a little bit. Just let those feet relax. Roll those shoulders. Breathe in. Breathe out. I'm going to place my hands down just in front or beside those knees. I'm going to tuck those toes under, let that chin drop to the chest, and then bring myself into my crouching position. So we're going to use that roll up. Now, if you're not comfortable with it, just come up however you feel is best. So I'm just going to let my chin relax. I'm going to straighten out those legs. Just hold it there for a moment and engage center. Tighten that belt and roll through that spine. And then I'm just going to move my camera angle. So we're back to our start position. Lovely. Really nice session, guys. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to take that little roll of the shoulders, relax the shoulders down. I'm going to just take one arm over that shoulder, come into that nice stretch for the triceps, the back of the arms and the shoulders. And then I'm going to look towards my opposite shoulder. Just take that hand gently to the crown of the head. I'm going to draw that head so I'm looking towards the hip. I'm going to breathe out. I'm going to breathe in. I'm going to relax those arms and shake it out. Let's do the same on the other side. So either walking or just reaching over that shoulder. Gently pushing that elbow to the ceiling. Keep looking straight ahead. Keep that chest lifted. And then we're going to look to that shoulder. Gently draw that head so we're looking towards the hip. And then we're going to release, and just shake it out. And shake everything out a little bit. So we'll finish with our nice breath of joy. We're going to draw that air in, and this time we're breathing all the way down into that belly button, pushing that breath out. That's great. Breathing in. And breathing out. And we're going to take one more breath of joy. And breathe out. And we are finished. Give those fingers a little shake. Give those toes a shake. What a way to start the week. That was lovely. Thank you for joining me. I really, really enjoyed that. Superb. So yeah, keep thinking about those principles throughout the week. You know, how we hold our shoulders, how we hold our pelvis when we're doing things, particularly when we're lifting things. And we'll see you next week. Have a good week. Goodbye.